Hey everyone, welcome to a new Wizard101 video. Today we're going to be looking at my Storm's stats for level 120. I hit 120 on my Storm after live streaming it for 6 days in a row in the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So we're now 120. Since then I've been doing some farming to try to get the best gear that's available from the Sands of Time, and I've gotten all of it. I mean, there's not like a ton of pieces of gear, but we'll go through all of that. So we did the Storm setup maybe for level 90. I think I have a level 90 out there somewhere. Definitely we did a Storm setup for level 100 and 110. The 110 Storm setup, I remember that took me forever to actually make that. So for the 120 setup, I decided to do it a little earlier. I mean, Mirage has only been out for like a little over a month, I think. So pretty good on that. I mean, you won't see a live setup until a while because we have to go through the whole walkthrough, but something to look forward to. But here we go with the Storm 120 setup. I'll just be going through all my gear and some of the new pieces of gear that I've added on to my sets. But to start things off, I'm going to be showing you guys the Storm boss set. And this set is the one that I use if I want to go super defensive against some kind of boss that I know can deal a lot of damage, and I want to survive long enough to be able to hit and have decent damage. So to start things off, let's look at the first page. Damage 125. The normal damage for Storm now is going to be over 120. It already kind of has been around 120, but now it's pretty easy to get upwards of 125, 130, somewhere around there. And I'll show you guys later, but you can get even more than that fairly easily. Obviously, you're going to have a reduction in other stats, but that's where you got to play with a little bit. So resist is really high for a Storm on this one because of the defensive stats. My pet has both proof and defy, so that helps a lot. Accuracy 43, that's a lot. That's because the deck I'm using, I put in an accuracy slot for the jewel. Crit is going to be low because we're not going for crit on this one, so 510. At level 120, 510 is only 42%. So it's a little low, but that's kind of what you're sacrificing for this set. 39% on the block, and then 38 armor piercing. So over 100% power pip. That's because just the Darkmoor gives a lot of power pip, which is nice. This is what the gear is that I'm using, Darkmoor, for the first 3 items. And then I've been using the Fortune Teller's Eternal Gaze for a long time. You guys have seen this before. Nothing new there. I mean, you could switch it out with something else, but we'll look at that later. Dragon's Talon, I've used this since Darkmoor as well. And it's just a really good theme with the Pierce jewels on it. And then Morganth, I could switch to this if I wanted to be even more defensive. Let me see what this would give. That would just bring the critical down even more. And then the block goes up. So if I wanted to have even more block, could use this. Nothing else really changes too much. A little more resist. So that's an option if I want to do that. And then Alpha and Omega. This is what I've used for a long time just for that block. I mean, I could always switch to this with more damage, but it just really depends. I mean, I'm not saying any of these gear sets are something that you should use because it's the best. It's just something that you could use in certain situations. So pet, you guys have seen this pet before. It's the block and proof and defy pet, which is pretty good. And then mount, I'll be using the balance sculpture from now on because I am sick of using the narwhal. So now I have a new mount that gives the 2%, which is nice. If I had the 3%, I would use it and you would have what, 126 damage for this Storm set. And then the deck, Rasputin deck with the accuracy jewel. So this set really hasn't changed much with the new gear, but I just wanted to show you guys a Storm kind of defensive set for 120. So moving on to the next set, this is the one that I've been the most excited to show you guys, and I call it the Storm Critical Set 9 because of how much crit I can get. So the 9 stands for over 900 crit. That is the basis of this entire set. So this is going to be a set where I don't really care about block at all, and we go for as much crit as possible while still having decent stats for damage. Resist is okay, and then also having 30 accuracy is pretty much the normal. This is why the Darkmoor robe is so good. I've never used any other robe besides the Darkmoor robe because the stats in this thing are just insane. Like, I am still amazed by how good the Darkmoor robe stats are for Storm. I mean, People from other schools will use the Rattlebones robe because it is better. The Rattlebones robe for Storm is not better. You gotta use this one if you're gonna be using a Storm at higher levels. So this is the Storm critical set. 121 damage, okay resist, having at least 30 accuracy is the normal, and then 915 critical is well over 100%. Now the age-old question that people ask me is, why do I want over 100% critical? And the critical percentage and the critical rating are two separate things. Yeah, they go together, but you can't look at them exactly the same, because the higher critical rating, the higher chance just overall that you're going to have to crit through. And 100% critical means that you're going to crit every single time with the Storm spell. So I want 100%, but I don't necessarily want to be at exactly 100%, because with this setup I'm going for 100% critical, but I'm also going for higher critical because I want to crit through more often. So that's what 900 critical means, and that's why I'm going for that. Does it seem a little excessive? I would say no, because that's kind of the part of this setup. Like, I'm going for a high critical setup in order to have a higher chance of critting through and finishing the battle fast, because if you crit through and you deal a lot of damage, you're going to finish the battle really quickly. So that's what this setup is. Almost 5,000 health. That's actually something that's new. Having a 5,000 health Storm with good stats is pretty remarkable. So I'm happy with that. I'll show you guys why we have that once I look at the gear. Yeah, really happy with these stats. I could get more critical, but I think 915 is still good. 6% shadow. So let's have a look at the actual gear. I'm still going to be using Malastare hats and Malastare robe, but what I did change was the Hood of the Desert Rains was the Chrysalis Crafted hat, and I decided just to use the Malastare one because you need power pips for this one, and it's pretty small amount of critical that you actually get from this hat, and I feel like the Malastare one just gives better stats overall. So I'm going to be using that. You could use this if you wanted just full on, like all out critical. If I wanted that, it's 931. Is 931 and 915 really that big of a difference? I would say no. So I'm gonna stick with Malastare 1 for the power pip. And then here is the new piece of gear for level 120. Time Warden, Downpour, Galesh, I think. A lot of the boots in Mirage, like the later ones, are called something Galesh. I don't really know. I guess it's some type of shoe, some type of boot. But this one is dropped from the Shadow Walk. He's the only person that I know so far that even drops these boots. And Tara and I farmed this guy over 100 times in order to get this piece of gear and another piece of gear that I'll show you. But it is well worth it, because compared to the crit boots from the Rat, they're just a little better than that. Actually, I would say they're a lot better, because they give 4 extra crit and 3% damage with slightly more in the resist, the same shadow pip. They give accuracy. They don't give the power pip, so that's where you have to make up for it, and that's where I decided to use the Malastare hat to make up for that. These boots are just a power creep over the Rat shoes. They're just better than it. So I'm going to be using these from now on for my crit sets. And then wand, the crit wand, the the all holy Jack Hallowailer from the what pack was that? One of the Nightmare packs during Halloween. I just can't believe how much crit this has. So I always use that in my crit sets. And then I've been using the Blade of the Shadow Palace. I just equipped it with a bunch of critical jewels, because I don't really need Pierce for this set, because that's not the point. And then a power pip. Any chance that you have to socket a power pip with a critical set for Storm, you're going to want to, because you need as much as possible. You're going to be low on power pip. So I was lucky to get up to 91%. If I wasn't using the Malastare hat, then I would be at like 81, which is pretty low. So the other thing, these are all the same as I've used in the past, but here is another new piece of gear. Now this one is really good. This is the new Storm critical ring, and the previous Storm critical ring was from Aphrodite. So we've gotten a better Storm critical ring that now gives 92 crit, 6% damage. So this is way better than the other one, because the other one didn't even give damage. Now we have damage, and I've socketed another crit into it. So this ring alone gives me over 100 crit, which is pretty good. And they give some damage, a decent amount of health too, I think. Actually, it's, well, with my jewel, it's a little more than Aphrodite. Well, actually, no, not really, but Still, health doesn't really matter because you're getting a lot of health from these boots. I'm just impressed that we can get almost 5,000 health on a storm. But this ring is the new crit ring. It doesn't give the same, power pip as the Aphrodite one, so you're losing a lot there. You have to make up for it in other places, which I have. But this ring is really good. It drops from the Shadow Walk as well. Took me, as I said, over 100 tries farming him in order to get this. But I think it's worth it because it helps me to be able to get 900 critical, like a steady 900 crit with 120 plus damage. Here's the pet I always use, my crit and damage pet. Going to be using the Balance Sculpture for the 2%. And then obviously a deck with Power Pip is really good. So these are the stats. I'm pretty proud of them. I think going forward with a base 900 plus critical is going to be necessary. It's just going to make things easier. You're not going to need a lot of block or a lot of pierce for a regular fight against mobs or even some easy bosses. That's why this set goes for critical over both of these stats. And usually it works out. Usually just having a higher crit, being able to crit through, makes up for having block or having armor piercing, because I can pretty much kill by turn 3 with 900 crit and 120 damage. So you're not going to need block, and that's honestly how Blue and I got through Mirage, the speed run. We went, I think I had 799 or 790 in terms of my crit, and that was like the highest I could get at that point with still decent stats. Now I get 900 with still decent stats. So that's the increase of 10 levels and what we can do now with critical. The last set that I wanted to show you guys, I had to actually just make it myself right now because I didn't have it made earlier. But this one is the ultimate damage set, and this is using all the new pieces of gear that give damage, and I can basically get up to 150. I'm not sure when I would want to use a set that gives 150 damage and like just mediocre crit, no block, some armor piercing. What does it give for resist? Resist is okay, and then only 25 on the accuracy. This one was basically just me seeing how much damage I could get right now, and I'm sure there's other pieces of gear that would give you like a little more damage if I had a pet that gave some more damage too. So could I get up to like 160, maybe more? Yeah, probably, but you're losing out on so many other stats that I don't feel like I would actually want to go for a set that gave 150, because I think I could make a hybrid set that would give me like 140 damage and still decent crit, because right now we're sitting at like 504 crit, which is only 40%. So I feel like I can get something that's more of a hybrid set between that, instead of just going for pure 150% damage and like 40% chance to critical. But it's cool that you can get that much damage with the new pieces of gear from the pack. This is the hat that gives 23 storm damage, and then the Mouster robe, of course, and the boots give 29% storm damage. And then I'm using the wand, the craftable legendary wand from the Arcanum. That one gives 18% damage. Everything else is pretty much what I've been using in the past, but I'm using the Night Orbs ring on this because it gives the most damage for a ring. And then the Gulcher, I mean, if I had the 3% Gulcher, well, that would give me an extra percentage. So, I mean, there's little things here and there that would give you the extra percentage that you might want. But I'm going to look for a hybrid set quick and see if I can find anything that would give like 140 damage and some decent crit. Okay, this is pretty much the closest one that I can get. I can have almost 140 damage, okay resist, 30 accuracy, and then 742 critical, which is almost 90%, and then no block, some armor, and 91 power pip, which is okay. You also have the 1% pip conversion from the new wand, so that's probably the closest that you can get right now. I can get 130 damage with 100%, and I feel like that's more consistent than using the, what is it? Let me see. Actually, that's the wrong one. We need to use this. I feel like that's more consistent than 140 damage with 90%. So 810 will give you 100% critical. You also have, actually you have some block, so it's not like you have zero block like some of my other sets. And then power pip 91, I feel like that's still pretty good. And then 130 damage. So this set honestly is pretty good. 5,000 health, 130 damage, and 810 crit. It's not something that I would use in like PvP. None of these sets are really PvP sets. I have a PvP set, but it's not updated. This is probably my old one from 110. So I'm not really looking at PvP sets right now. I'm just looking at PvE, and this set could be good for PvE. 130 damage, and you'll crit every single time. So I'm probably gonna save this set as like kind of a just a storm mid-range set for crit. I don't even know what I would call it. Maybe just storm attack set. Love a storm attack set. So yeah, that's basically gonna be this video looking at some storm setups for level 120. It really comes down to, if you are max storm and you're looking to try to get higher stats, you're gonna have to just try and farm for the Time Warden boots and the new Tempest ring, because these are gonna give you the best stats from the gear that you previously have with Darkmoor and like some of the wands from the packs and stuff. So I also recently just started using the Blade of the Shadow Palace because I didn't want to unequip this one with the Pierce, so I put in some critical, which helps just get up to 100% critical, which is pretty nice, to be honest. So that is probably going to do it for this video, just kind of looking at stats for Storm Wizards. Some of them are actually pretty insane now. I consider this to be pretty insane. Having 130 damage and 100% critical, I feel like that's pretty crazy. But I'll probably be using this one the most, just because I like insane critical with obvious drawbacks. But I don't know, it's kind of fun to take that risk as a Storm Wizard, because you know that you can just do so much damage in a small amount of time. And even in Mirage, I was able to finish battles in 2 to 3 rounds with one other person, even only having 790 crit, something like that. But now at 120, you need to have more critical rating in order to get 100%. I think it's like 800 something. So that 810 set was right around 100%. But pretty cool what you can do with stats nowadays. I'm excited to see what kind of new gear Wizards going to bring out with level 120. I feel like at some point they're going to release a new dungeon with gear or something like that. So we'll be waiting to see if the gear's better. I mean, if we get a Darkmoor increase, like just new Darkmoor gear that's better, that'd be cool. But that gear is going to have to be crazy to beat out this this robe. Woo, we'll see. Maybe there'll be one robe that just gives 30% accuracy, and that'll basically make up for Storm's deficit on their accuracy for spells. But who knows? So thank you guys for watching this. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like on it. Stay subscribed, or subscribe if you haven't, for new Wizard videos in the future. And other than that, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time.